Hi, I'm Sarah Foster, the Akron Hillel coordinator at Kent State University Hillel and the Special Initiatives coordinator for Cleveland Hillel. And I'm very glad you're here to join me to talk today about learning to live with imperfections. I am a perfectionist. I often repeat myself in regular conversation as I look for just the right way to say what I want to say. I've been baking challah during quarantine, and my husband pointed out the other day that I was getting frustrated because it took me nearly 6 weeks to find, and multiple recipes, to find the challah that we liked, let alone to get it perfect. Yet, I am trying to let go of the idea that I need to be perfect. Just before my wedding, a family friend told me that something would go wrong. Something wouldn't go according to plan, and the day would still be perfect. She was right. We had to move our ceremony indoors because of a downpour. I missed out on dancing with my grandfather. The band announced us when we had asked them not to. And I'm sure there were countless other things that I don't even know about that went wrong that day. But, as my husband says, in a binary world, we did it. We got married. The day was a success. When I look back on the day, it's not the fact that we got married inside or instead of on the patio that I think about. It's the feeling of complete joy, the look on my husband's face, the thing my dad said to me when he walked me down the aisle. These and countless other wonderful things are what I remember about that perfect day. I'm trying to live my life more and more according to the idea that things will go wrong and can still be perfect. I often look to Jewish sources and beliefs for support in trying to change myself. For many of us in today's society, we consider the Messiah to be the pinnacle of perfection, an idea that has its roots in Judaism. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether I believe in the Messiah as a person or simply as the concept of the Messianic age. But for the purpose of this teaching, I'm going to work with the traditional concept of an actual human being who uses he pronouns. There's a lot to be said about the patriarchal standard here, but that could be a lesson on its own. With all of that in mind, we're going to look at a series of texts that show us some characteristics of the Messiah. We'll use these to gain a better understanding of what we can expect from this individual and therefore from ourselves. In Numbers 24:17, as we are reading the story of Balak and Balaam, the prophet Balaam describes Israel saying, "What I see for them is not yet. What I behold will not be soon. A star rises from Jacob. A scepter comes forth from Israel. It smashes the brow of Moab, the foundation of all children of Seth." The text suggests to us that this star from Jacob will be extremely powerful, a great warrior, able to smash the brow of Moab. The 12th century Spanish commentator Ibn Ezra suggests that this star from Jacob refers to King David, and a century later, Ramban suggests more directly that this is a reference to the Messiah. So we understand that the Messiah is a great warrior. We also have the idea that the Messiah will be a skilled judge. As Isaiah 11:3 says, "He, the Messiah, shall sniff out the truth by his reverence for the eternal. He shall not judge by what his eyes behold, nor decide by what his ears perceive." This suggests that the Messiah will be such a skilled judge that they will not be swayed by outward appearances, but will simply understand the truth in judgment. According to Zohar Breshit, a 13th century Kabbalistic text, the Messiah also is learned and visits every academy and puts his seal on the Torah that comes from the mouths of the teachers. Maimonides, a 12th century Spanish commentator, suggests that the Messiah needs to be all this and more, saying, "If a king from the house of David studies Torah, busies himself with commandments like David did, observes the laws of written and oral Torah, convinces Israel to walk in the way of Torah, and to repair its breaches and fight the battles of the eternal, it may be assumed that he is the Messiah. If he succeeds at all these things, rebuilds the temple on its site, and gathers the dispersed of Israel, he is beyond all doubt the Messiah. All of these ideas about how great the Messiah is are found in Judaism, and Christianity took this litany of qualities and applied them to Jesus, someone they see as not just an incredible human being and the Messiah, but also a divine person. These ideas of Messianic perfection were, in this way, strengthened even further, and then began to seep back into Jewish thought. Now, to a certain extent, Judaism too sees the Messiah as an incredibly intelligent, pious, courageous, strong, skilled individual. It's quite a standard to live up to. All of that in one person, to the extent described here, seems almost too good to be true. And yet, there is a key point that we often forget about the Davidic line and the Messianic heritage, one that relates to our festival Megillah reading for Shavuot. To understand this, we will look at some of the verses from throughout the book of Ruth, beginning with chapter 1, verse 4. And they, 2 Israelite men, took for themselves wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, the name of the other Ruth, and they dwelt there in Moab for about 10 years. So we know that Ruth was a Moabite. But what does that mean? To answer this, we need to go back to the origin story of the Moabites in Genesis chapter 19. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in earth to come to us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he was so drunk he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. And it came to pass the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you will go in and lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him. And again he was so drunk he did not know when she lay down or when she arose. And so both daughters of Lot were pregnant by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called him by the name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites to this day. So we know that Ruth is a Moabite, and the Moabites are a result of this incestuous relationship. But what does all that have to do with the Messiah? We turn back to the book of Ruth. In the next few chapters, Ruth's husband, an Israelite, dies, as does her father-in-law, also an Israelite. When Ruth's mother-in-law decides to go back to Israel, Ruth follows her and gives the famous speech, Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. So Ruth, as the first Jew by choice, follows her mother-in-law to Israel. And one day, while gleaning corn in the field of a kinsman, she meets Boaz, and they start up a relationship. In chapter 4, we read, So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went to her, and the Eternal caused her to conceive, and she bore a son. Goes on, and Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became a nurse to it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Naomi essentially adopts this child, the daughter of Boaz and Ruth, and gives him the name Obed. We are told that Obed's son is Jesse, and his grandson will be King David. Finally, commentators agree that Isaiah 11:1 which states, "And there shall come forth a shoot out of the stock of Jesse, and a twig shall grow forth out of its roots," refers to the Messiah, and therefore the Messiah will be a descendant of Jesse, and by extension Obed, and by further extension Ruth. The Messianic lineage is one of incest and conversion. Having incest in the lineage is, to put it lightly, not what we generally consider to be an ideal model. We are even warned against incest in Leviticus chapter 18. So if not even the Messiah can live up to our ideal of perfection, how can we expect ourselves to live up to that idea? Conversely, in Judaism, there's a teaching that Jews by choice are actually born with Jewish souls. In Deuteronomy 29:13, we read that the covenant made at Sinai was made with all souls, not just the ones present at this moment, which we understand to be a reference to Jews by choice. Therefore, the act of conversion is about an individual making themselves more whole and more perfect. This, too, is built into our concept of the Messiah. So yes, the Messiah is the result of incest, but the Messiah is also intelligent, pious, courageous, strong, and skilled, practically perfect. And in being the result of Ruth's recognition that she could be more perfect through the act of adopting Judaism, the Messiah tells us that there is always room for improvement. Just as Ruth's attempt to become her more perfect self will lead to the Messiah, we can all continue to better ourselves. Judaism teaches that it's okay to be imperfect. It's expected that we are human. The sacrificial system was set up to allow us to atone for our wrongdoings precisely because of this assumption that we will have missteps in our lives. The expectation is not that we will be perfect, but that we will strive to make things better when we have done something wrong. We are provided with the process of tshuva to fix our mistakes. We are given a chance to be better next time, to do better next time, to improve ourselves. We can strive for perfection as long as we understand that it is an unattainable goal, and yet it is a goal that we should continue to work towards. As Rabbi Tarfon taught in Pirkei Avot, "Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, velo ata ben chorin lihitbatel mimena." You are not obligated to finish the work, nor are you free to desist from it. May we use this Shavuot to strive to be better, while we release ourselves from the need to be perfect, and may we learn to love things as perfectly imperfect. Chag Sameach.